Welcome to Khanversation. I'm Muqtedar Khan, and today I'm going to talk about Ibn Khaldun, the great Arab and Muslim scholar, philosopher. But before we start our conversation, I want you to essentially subscribe to the channel. If you have not subscribed to the channel, please like the video and don't forget to ring the bell icon because that is important. Every time I post a new video, you will get an intimation saying there is a new conversation that you can watch. So basically, we live in a world where there's a lot of classification. One function of science is to classify, and we find today that there are many institutions, many think tanks, many civil society organizations which are classifying countries into various types. So for example, take the case of the Economic Intelligence Unit, a think tank associated with The Economist magazine. It classifies the world based on democracy. So it argues that there are four types of governments in the world, four types of regimes: those that are fully democratic, then there are those that are partially democratic, then there are hybrid regimes, and then there are authoritarian regimes. So democratic societies and states are obviously the best societies to live in. Countries like Canada, New Zealand, and others are part of it. Another institute, the Freedom House, that rates countries, categorizes countries in three ways: countries that are free, countries that are partly free, and countries that are not free. They are essentially focusing on religious freedom and political freedoms. Do you have the freedom to voice your political opinion? Do you have freedom of conscience? Can you change your religion? Can you practice your religion freely? These are some of the criteria that determine the Freedom House ratings. And you can see that among free countries, they have examples such as Denmark and Chile. India is part, along with Ukraine, of the partly free countries, which means that yes, there is freedom in these countries, but there are also restrictions such as on journalists, on the media, and even in terms of religious freedoms. And we know what's happening in India. It is surprising that Israel is considered entirely free because of the way it treats Palestinians is not exactly the way a free country would treat people who live within its borders. And of course, countries like Russia, China, and Iran are part of the not free category. Now let's turn to Ibn Khaldun. But before I do that, if you have not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe to Khanversations. So I'm talking about Ibn Khaldun's conception of three different types of governments. I'm actually referring to my book, Islam and Good Governance. And you can find this discussion from pages 183 to 186 in the book. Ibn Khaldun essentially identifies three types of regimes or three types of polities. He says they are natural states, they are rational states, and they are religious states. Natural states are those states where the leadership, the ruling elite, is pursuing their own goals. They are trying to pursue their own goals. So the rulers or the elite that is dominating, whether it's a tribe, whether it's an individual, whether it is dynasty, is essentially pursuing self-interest. So even when they expand, when they conquer, it is for glory of the rulers. And so essentially public interest and public welfare does not play a major role in the policies that are determined by that government. So example, when Babur first moved from Central Asia to Afghanistan in pursuit of a kingdom and an empire, and then moved from Afghanistan to India to establish the Mughal Empire, he would fit the definition of a natural state where the ruler is pursuing his own personal glory, his family's glory, his tribe's glory, and not necessarily motivated in taking major decisions in the interest of the public. And so he basically argues that natural states are driven by instincts and human appetites, and they are neither modified by reason nor informed by religion. The second type of state is the rational state, and in this category, Ibn Khaldun argues that rational states are those whose primary motivation for making policy, whether it's foreign policy or domestic policy, is the well-being and the welfare of the population. When the ruler cares about the people, their well-being, their safety, their security, their prosperity, then that state is rational state, because that is what reason tells you. Ibn Khaldun was a very realist and state-centered thinker and scholar, and so it's very interesting for him to essentially advance a conception of a welfare state. He doesn't go that far, but he does argue that a rational state where the rulers are informed by reason is one where policies pursue the well-being of the people. And finally, his conception of the caliphate or the religious state. It's very interesting. He had a very nuanced and sophisticated concept of religious state. He's not just motivated by the kind of arguments that traditional Muslim scholars make, that any country or any society that imposes Islamic law is an Islamic state. He argues that religious states are those states where the leadership are pursuing two goals. They are pursuing the well-being of the citizens in this world, and also pursuing a goal of providing a well-being for the citizens in the other world. So essentially, they are states which are concerned with improving the material condition of their citizens and also the spiritual condition of their citizens. A very popular Islamic prayer that most Muslims recite in prayers is رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً. This prayer, وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. In this prayer, Muslims essentially are asking God to provide them good in this world and good in the world in the hereafter. So that is exactly what Ibn Khaldun is saying, that a religious state is a state which is seeking good for its citizens in this world and good for its citizens in the next world. So if you look at the world today, there are many countries which claim to be religious states or have religious aspirations. Pakistan claims to be an Islamic republic. Malaysia claims to be an Islamic state. Saudi Arabia used to claim that it was an Islamic state. I don't know what it claims now. Then you have, of course, Israel, which insists that it is a Jewish state and claims to be a Jewish state. Iran is an Islamic republic, and India now is aspiring to become a Hindu Rashtra or a Hindu state. If you look at India, does India qualify as a religious state? Unfortunately, India, because of the fact that it is not fully a Hindu state, would not qualify as a religious state. It still pretends to be a secular democracy. But given the way it has treated its minorities and even a section of the majority who come from lower caste, Ibn Khaldun probably will look at India and say, you have a lot of promise and you have a lot of deep roots which are both democratic and pluralistic, but at the moment you are not pursuing policies which are in the interest of all your citizens. So you are not a state that is providing security, prosperity, welfare, and equality to all your citizens, and therefore, when it comes to being a rational state, you are deficient. And as far as religious state is concerned, like I said, even the staunchest of advocates of Hindutva would argue that India is not a Hindu Rashtra. At the moment, it is rushing towards becoming one, and in the process, as it rushes towards becoming a Hindu state, it is shedding democracy, secularism, pluralism, rule of law, and all that which would make it a good rational state. So I hope you found this conversation about Ibn Khaldun and how he would look at religious states today interesting. Please feel free to leave your comments. If you have any questions, if you want to have a further conversation about these issues, do not hesitate to say so in your comments. This is Muqtedar Khan. Please subscribe to Khanversations and share the video with your friends and family. Thank you very much for watching.